Welcome everybody to today's 1 Million by 1 Million Strategy Roundtable for Entrepreneurs. As you most likely know, that the mission of the 1M1M program is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million in annual revenue by 2020. We are here almost every week with this free roundtable. So we are on our 143rd session today. So there's been a lot of experience of doing these for quite some time now, and hope you'll enjoy today's session. You will have a recording available after the session to reflect back on it or to share with people. And if you would live tweeting the show, use @1M by 1M or @Sramana as the two accounts that we tweet from, and there's going to be some live tweeting from there. You can follow those accounts as well. And if you are live tweeting from your account, use #1M1M to mark the event so that we can pick it up from there to retweet. Ajit Narayan is the first presenter today. Ajit's company is Avaz. Ajit, over to you.
All right, thank you, Sramana. I'll start off with just a couple of sentences about what we do. I make apps for children with autism. Specifically, I make an app called Avaz, which is an app that helps children with autism communicate and learn language. I've been engaged with Sramana over the last couple of years. We had started off Avaz as a device, and Sramana gave us the advice to make an app out of it. Now we've got an app out, and it's there in the market, and we're looking to I'm looking for advice to figure out what to do next. So we launched the app in the App Store about 10 days, about a couple of weeks back. We don't have a great deal of sales yet. We have about 3 or 4 downloads. But I took Sramana's advice, and we beta tested with about 20 speech therapists and special educators, a lot of very famous ones, a lot of very influential ones, and almost all of them from the United States, though there were a couple from Europe and a couple from India as well. The good news is we got rave reviews. It took us a couple of rounds of iteration, but the reviews were just fantastic. There was this one person who said the app was just wonderful. It was amazing, very easy, very user-friendly, very simple for children to use, but also very easy for a therapist or an educator to use with a child. You know, a lot of people commented about how it's not just communication that we do, but also language learning, and how that was really important. So the reviews have been fantastic. These are not reviews, just to clarify, these are not reviews on the App Store, but these are reviews that people have given us as testimonials through the beta testing process. We're priced at $99, which is significantly lower than $189, which is what the market leader prices their app at. We also have an Android version that we released some time back. We tried releasing this on the stores, but the response wasn't really great. So what we've done is we've released it through an OEM channel, and there's another company that's based in California that works with speech therapy that's taken our Android product and has put that in a device, and they're selling that under their brand name. So this is what's been happening. I'm going to very quickly tell you. So on the next slide, you know, I need help in prioritizing 5 different activities, and these are the 5 activities that I want to figure out how to prioritize. First of all, we have the app out there, and you know, I have to figure out how to market it. Second, the app market in America for autism is pretty crowded. There are about 5 or 6 front runners and maybe a tail of about 20, 30 other apps. So there is also a lot of interest from markets that are less crowded, and I'm trying to figure out if I can enter those markets instead. The third is to replicate this OEM model, which we've had a fair amount of success with. The fourth is to offer services in the space of special education. This is something that we did with one company, and we have a good value proposition here, so as a way of buttressing our cash flows. And the fifth is, of course, the area that we're most comfortable with, which is to develop better and better versions of Avaz. So I have these 5 areas that I need prioritizing. So Sramana, I'm going to go over each of these very quickly, just in terms of pros and cons, and do let me know if you have any thoughts on any of these specifically.
Okay.
I'm on the slide about marketing Awaaz. Now, we had a couple of versions of Awaaz before this, but this is the first one that we've had, which has gone through that extensive iteration with therapists. So the therapists are saying it's great, and I think this is something that we've invested a lot of time and effort in. So it's really something that can at least break into the top 3. So I like the idea of pushing this as far as it goes and making a revenue stream out of Awaaz, the app, as soon as possible. But the problem is that there are well-entrenched competitors. So ever since the iPad came out a couple of years back, this whole iPad for therapy has really boomed big time, and there are a couple of people who are really well-entrenched, and there are also people who are generally strong in therapy who have now started looking at making apps. So there are people who've been in the market for a while. Also, the buying decision is a little complicated in America because it's often the therapist who recommends, and the app is bought either by the school, with an iPad, or by a parent, and usually the therapist works with the child with the app. So it's not just that the child is using the app. So it's a little complicated, the buying decision. And most importantly, I have a limited budget. I did the numbers a few days back. I think I have about $10,000 to $15,000 that I can put into marketing Awaaz right now. So I have to see how to take that as far as it goes. So the way I'm doing it right now is I've sent it out to
1 second, I have a question.
I'm sorry.
Here.
Yes.
So let's say you don't go the consumer route. Let's say you go with the therapist. And you said earlier that you have got some very good reviews from therapists, early adopter therapists who have tried the product and so forth. What if you went with some therapists as your primary channel? Because each therapist
so how would that work, Sramana?
is working with some 100, 200 customers.
Yes, that's right. So are you suggesting that I have a tie-up with a therapist so that if they recommend Awaaz, then they get a cut of the sale?
You could do that, or even, maybe, so that has to be set up. I think, how you sell and how they access, if it's from the App Store, I think it's going to be harder for you to give those, make it operationally viable, right? You're selling this in the App Store, no?
Right. It's on the App Store right now.
Yeah. So how does the App Store have affiliate?
No, not really.
No.
Apple pays, but they don't give us that information.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be operationally not viable, but conceivably, if it's a compelling product that therapists really like, they may just be willing to promote it with their customers anyway.
Right. You mean even without having financial kickback, really?
Their job is to help their patients, and I think they're looking for tools and technologies to do that effectively with. So conceivably, if you, and frankly, some of the advantages that you have because you're operating on a relatively low cost structure model from India is that even if you can get, let's say, 100 therapists, each of them selling, let's say, 100, 200 units, or helping, just word of mouth in their networks of 100, 200 patients, you start generating revenues right away without really going for massive consumer marketing.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, so we have been reaching out to a lot of therapists. I was able to get an email list which has a list of all the accredited therapists in America.
Okay.
Apple gives us a few promo codes, so I've been giving out these promo codes to therapists as well, especially the influential ones, the ones that maintain blogs, the ones that have an active presence on social media. So I've been doing that. So I guess I'll know in about a month's time whether that channel is really working or not, because these people have started writing about Awaaz, they started reviewing Awaaz, they've started recommending it to the kids that they work with and things like that. So I'll keep my eyes open there, and I'll see if I can push that harder.
How big is that list, Ajit? How big is the email list?
About 5,000 names.
Okay, then I would say you can, very cost effectively run an email marketing campaign on those therapists. And that may be your primary marketing channel.
So do you recommend that I give the therapist the app for free and ask them to show it around?
They're going to have to know, they're going to have to try the app. So these promo codes are for them to try the app for free, right?
Yes, yes. It's just that I'll have to figure out a way of making it scale, because Apple gives me 50 promo codes. But I'll figure out a way to get that working.
You're going to have to do more than that. You're going to have to kind of create this online, this email marketing campaign on those 5,000 so that you can really engage this therapist community. I mean, I think, if you can really engage the 5,000 therapists in a meaningful way, I think your job is done, kind of. I think it will pretty much, that is the biggest influencer community for this category.
Right, right. Absolutely. So that's something that I'll put a lot more effort into. Sure.
So in terms of marketing, Awaz, in the US, I think I would be very specific on marketing and really engaging that community of 5,000, and that's pretty much your primary objective as far as marketing in America is concerned.
Okay, okay. That's a great takeaway, Sramana. Okay, I'll move to the next slide now, which is the new markets with potential.
Yeah.
I made a trip to Denmark about 3 or 4 months back, and I showed them Avaz. Now, the numbers in Europe are as big as the numbers in America. It's just that most of those people don't speak English, and so they don't have a lot of apps. Now, I had a meeting with somebody very senior in Autism Denmark, with the Vice President of Autism Denmark. Mm-hmm. And when she saw Avaz, she literally jumped off her chair and she said, I want something like this in Danish. We have no idea that there's technology like this that's available outside Denmark, which is so advanced compared to what we have here. And she said she would help me to work with the government. She'd help me to get it recommended in all of the special schools there. And she's also very well connected in Autism Europe. And she says everybody in Europe will love an app in their own language. Now, Sramana, that I've been looking at the Indian market, and really, that wasn't really very attractive financially, but the technologies I've developed for the Indian market, especially to do with language customization, that's standing me in great stead right now, because I can get into a market in Europe and I can launch a product in 1 month, in literally 1 month, from the day I start to the day it's on the App Store. So that's a very, very interesting opportunity, just because there's no competition and because the entry barrier for me is so low. Mm-hmm. The biggest problem with that is that, since it's a communication app, it has to be culture specific, so I have to work with someone in that country. And of course, this person from Autism Denmark is doing that for me right now. She's reviewing the content, she's putting in all the Denmark specific stuff, she's helping me check whether the translations are fine, she's helping me do all that. So I'll need somebody like that. And second, and probably more important, this app, this app is not really an impulse purchase. It's not an Angry Birds app. It's an app which somebody takes a lot of effort to understand and then buy. So there's a significant amount of marketing that has to go behind the app. And it would really help if we had local marketing support from any of these countries. Because if I go to Denmark, they have about 60 conferences every year about autism. And so if somebody is there who's present, who's talking about these things, then, that's the way that I can get the word out. That's the challenge and that's the opportunity. Yeah.
My instinct on this one is that if you can find a local partner who's going to actually finance this whole thing.
Okay.
And you can do, some sort of, to some extent, the kinds of deals that you do in your other services businesses where there's a portion that is upfront development fees and then there is a portion that is royalties, effectively.
Right.
But you have enough track record at this point. You have enough stuff to show that can get people excited, but ask your Danish partner to find some, or Danish contact to find a partner who is willing to invest in this and do some sort of a, you know, JV of sorts, where they put in some money to help you bring this to market, and then they do the marketing in Denmark, going to these conferences and so forth. They do all of that and really market it and do a royalty sharing, but there is an upfront investment on their part to really put some skin in the game, and that also serves the dual purpose of covering your costs.
Okay. So how much the amount of investment should be based on how much I expect to spend? Is that the calculation?
Well, the amount of investment should be a function of the total available market in that market. So how much can you guys together, what is the total available market at $99 or whatever is the equivalent in euro, whatever you're going to price it at? Maybe you can even price it higher. But yes, whatever is the price point, that times how many units can you sell, that is the total available market. And it looks like you're going into kind of a monopoly situation. So there's not a lot of competition that you're going to have to deal with. So conceivably, if you market it right, a large portion, 70–80% of that market could be yours. So with that assumption, right, what is the total amount of money you stand to make? Then you take, you know, so if you come back to me with some numbers on these, I will be able to help you, you know, figure out how to negotiate these deals. But for each of these European geographies where language-specific and culture-specific products need to be made, this is the structure of the deals that I would do.
Okay. So still retaining the same channel, which is the Apple App Store channel, but finding a local partner who puts an investment into this and getting into a JV model. That's what you're recommending, right?
That's what I'm recommending, yes.
And do you recommend that we do our own marketing as well, or do you think I should leave it completely to the local partner to market, but under the Avaz name?
I think you should. The ideal situation would be they do the marketing in their local geographies, because there's going to be so much local nuance to that. The minute you get into different languages, the nuances are going to be very different.
Okay.
And I think what you can do with your with your US, you've already got the 5,000 therapists, and you can do that from India. It's English, and you don't need anybody else to do it. You can do it yourself. You kind of, you know, today the US and Indian markets operate very closely. That's fine. But the minute you change languages, I think the barrier to your understanding of that market goes up severely.
Okay. Okay. What do you think about the Indian market, Sramana? The Indian market is something that I have been present in, and you know, we have already a good brand established in India, and we have the marketing networks. I have the email list. I have all of that. It's not, the market is not very big. That's the only disadvantage.
How big is? How much money can you make in the Indian market? What is the TAM right now?
I think over the next 2 years, given the penetration of iPads and given the awareness about autism, I consider it, I think about 1,000, 2,000 units of sales is what I'm looking at.
At what price point?
At the same $100.
$100. So about $100,000 per year.
Yes. Yeah, per year. Yes. Yes.
So that's not too bad, right? From your revenue point of view, if you have already good presence in that market, you already have a, you know, good brand and everything. If it's not, again, you know, do email marketing and you know, get all these people engaged through efficient mechanisms of marketing. If it requires that you visit everybody to sell $100,000 worth of business, it's not going to work, because the unit
unfortunately
to each channel is very small.
Yeah. That was the problem with the Indian market right from the beginning, Sramana. The cost of sales was really very high. People wanted me to visit, then they wanted to evaluate for a month or 2 months, and then they wanted to negotiate price.
I would say put the Indian market on a similar email marketing and, you know, web marketing kind of mode, and do not visit people, because for these little orders, if you start visiting everybody, it's going to eat up all your time and it's not going to convert.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm on the next slide now, and that's about working with other companies in this space. Now, we have this one company that's in California. It's a fairly small therapy company. They have about 125 therapists, and they pretty much have a body shopping outfit. So they send these therapists to work in different schools. So they've taken up Aavas and they've co-branded it. So it's under their brand name, and it is powered by Aavas. And they've taken the Android version, they've bundled it with a Galaxy Tab, and they're selling that as a dedicated therapy device. Okay. I like this because they've given me a commitment, you know, for about 100 devices, 100 units of sales. Plus, they've also given me another 100 sales. So, you know, I already have money from that deal even before they've sold anything. Okay. And they've got the network. They've got the, you know, if they've got the therapist. So when a therapist goes to a school and says, you know, there's this really cool app, why don't we try switching all of our students to this app? And the school's going to believe them, and they're going to, so they have the access to the market. These guys are a small player. They're only in California, and even in California, they're probably like third or fourth. But there are big players in the market, and I'm just wondering if I should try talking to them, tapping them, etc. Especially given that I have my own app in the market. The Aavas app is already there in the market. Should I be looking at these opportunities? Should I be looking at these opportunities for the iPad version as well? What
I suggested for you in Europe is a very similar kind of deal. It's a variation on some sort of a JV OEM type of deal, right? The minute you start negotiating these deals, you will see that they will turn out to be very similar. You will have money from people up front, and you will have some sort of a royalty sharing arrangement and so forth. But I think, you know, yes, I think that's a very good way. See, OEM or these kind of revenue sharing with upfront payment type of deals are capital efficient ways of going to market. When you have, you know, low capital, it's always easier to go to market on the back of somebody else who has capital but not the expertise.
Yes. Yes. So do you think I should try this model in America as well?
So if you kind of synthesize, let's go back to the slide where you had the 5 different, you know, activities. I would say marketing the current version of Aavas in the US, you focus purely on email marketing with the therapist list and don't do anything outside of that particular audience. You're customizing Aavas for other less crowded markets, Europe especially. I would work with partners and create these kinds of upfront payment plus revenue sharing types of deals, and that would again make it less, put a lot of the burden of the marketing on your partners, and also start generating cash upfront. And in the Indian market, put it on a pure online marketing mode. Do not visit companies to sell. So you have to manage, and in the Indian market, you have to manage the cost of sale.
Okay.
And then, as I said, the OEM option, I'm more comfortable with. OEM is fine. I don't know how many partners like that are out there, but definitely for these different language markets, the OEM type of deal, more like a revenue sharing, a combination of some upfront payment and royalty sharing, this structure of deal is perfect.
Okay. Okay.
And that actually addresses your point number 4, offering services in the space to other educational companies. What I'm suggesting is kind of like a product service combination business model.
Yes, but the services that I've been doing now are to develop completely different products for other companies that are also looking at the autism space. So that's another revenue stream right now, which could potentially be quite big because we have the technology expertise and we also have the domain knowledge here. And there are a huge number of companies that are now looking at autism apps all over America.
And what is the marketing for that? Are they coming to you automatically, or is that something that you have to go and again do serious sales on?
I mean, we just had one customer so far who came to us. So I don't know the answer to that, but
how did they find
I'm assuming that, well, they read about us somewhere and they came to us. This is the same company that's doing the OEM in America for us.
Okay. So here's, again, you have to make these all efficient ways of customer acquisition. If there's a lot of companies that are trying to do autism-related technologies, you need to create a list of those and then communicate with them and make them aware of what you do, but it all has to be online marketing and, you know, email, phone marketing. Again, you cannot visit every single company in the US to sell your services.
Of course, yes, yes. Okay. So I think the main challenge from my side is really prioritizing these things, Sramana, because all of these things you can see that there is money there, and you know I can even making a new version of the product. A lot of people have asked me for a free version. They're like, you know, can you make a free version so that we can try it out before we buy it? And that's attractive because it reduces the price of the app, reduces the price of marketing the app. There are people who are asking for an Android version because they're saying there's nothing on Android available. There are all of these new tablets out there. Can we make an Android release? So that's another thing that's interesting. So I have these bunch of things that I'm really, you know, a lot of balls that I'm juggling, and yeah, I wanted your opinion about.
I would not do free apps.
Yeah.
I would not do free apps. I think you're going to have to work a little bit on the Android because you have other things that are going to monetize faster. You have products that are ready that need to be sold rather than new products built and then sold. So right now you need to sell what you've already built. The other thing that I said was when you build new products with new languages, new markets, new cultures, there should be some upfront payment from partners which will help you finance the development of that. So what I'm reluctant to steer you in the direction of is putting your own investment in building products that are going to, you know, then you have to start figuring out how to market those products, which Android falls in that category. So I would deprioritize Android right now.
Okay. Okay. So in the other four that, you know, we
probably do all of these things in the next 24 months, but you have to prioritize and stage them and you know, get money coming.
Right. Right. So as a kind of a parting note, Sramana, the first 4 points on my list: marketing the current version, marketing it in Denmark and in other European countries, working with OEMs and offering services. What do you think is the highest priority?
Our first priority is marketing what you have already built and where you have already the therapist list. So my assumption is that should translate into revenues. Even if they're not gigantic revenues, that should translate into revenues in short order. Right? If the product is good and if these, you know, some percentage of 5,000 therapists are going to resonate, then they're going to resonate with the product. You already have the list of these people. You've got to engage them and translate that into revenue. That's probably the easiest, the lowest hanging fruit here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. All right, Ajit.
That's fantastic.
Did we cover everything you needed to cover?
Yeah, I think so. Incredibly productive as always. Thank you so much, Sramana.
You're very welcome. All right, Ernest, you're next.
Hello. Okay. First time, and my name is Ernie Diaz, and the presentation itself is Quality Sleep Solutions. Is a company that I founded about 3 years ago. Today we have 18 sleep centers. So we'll be talking a little bit about sleep diagnostics. Now this is pertaining to the U.S. market. So I'm going to make some mentions in regards to the international market and the potential on that too. Next please. Let's go to the next one. Thank you. So today it's estimated that about 50 million Americans suffer from sleep disorders, and yet 85% of them remain undiagnosed. Sleep markets are forecasted to grow 17% within the U.S., which estimated to reach about $5 billion in revenue by 2017. Because of some of the cutbacks that are coming about in regards to reimbursement from the government and some of the commercial insurance, a lot of these sleep centers are struggling. Part of this is because they're very inefficient. They're still working within the framework of a model that was essentially created back in the 80s in regards to if you build it, they will come type. So that they see the potential and the high demand for this product and these services, but still they are not able to prioritize correctly and take advantages of some of the new technologies that have come about. And as a matter of fact, the technologies that are now invented are going to also be impactful of the industry itself, as you will see. So what we've done and what I will be talking to you about today is a different approach to sleep and the sleep market. And this can be very much applicable to the international market. Also keep in mind that 85 to 90% of the sleep market right now is in the US. So we have a huge opportunity internationally speaking, and there is a lot of different tie-ins in regards to the model that we have here and the application of this and how to properly manage this in other countries. Next, please. So this is the way it works today in the U.S. And you know, I'm kind of briefly go over this and just looking at the graphics that I have here. Patient complaints of sleep. They'll go to a doctor and say, "Doc, I'm tired and I don't seem to be getting enough sleep. Either I have insomnia, I wake up at night, and I can't go back." So typically, the physician will just give them a pill. They'll say, "Here, take this sleeping pill. Come see me in a couple of months." Patient will once again complain about being sleepy, and they may not even consider about having them tested until approximately 15 to 20 years of them exhibiting this problem. So by then, they'll develop hypertension. From that, it will develop into obesity, and from that, it will develop into diabetes. Diabetes is estimated to grow 383% in the next 5 years in the U.S. market, and it's very much linked into sleep disorders and sleep deprivation because a lot of these patients are not sleeping well. Therefore, they're always tired, which keeps them from becoming active, and the onset of obesity then develops into diabetes and then other cardiogenic or cardiac problems that they will develop later on in their age. Once the doctor finally decides, you know what, I need to get the patient tested, they'll send them into a lab. Then the lab will run the report itself. The patient will come in, and then they'll send that report to the doctor. Now, most of these physicians are not sleep trained, and they may or may not understand what to do with this. So a sleep doctor will become involved at that point, and the patient will have to go see them, but the follow-up itself will be done through the family practitioner. So once the sleep doctor reviews it, then they look at that and make recommendations for the patient. Then the patient has to contact another company, which is called the DME company, which is the Durable Medical Equipment Company, which provides therapy for the patient. And a lot of these patients end up just basically giving up because of the way and then the process itself takes from the time in which it was diagnosed to the time in which therapy is instituted. And if there's no follow-up at all, they typically will give up in about 60 days to 90 days. So about 3 months, they're done with it. Next, please. In essence, what I just explained to you, in the way the market itself is working, it creates an opportunity for us if we are able to do it better. And we'll talk about the one-stop shop model, which it would make sense for anyone if we're going to go ahead and be treating this many patients. The other paradigm is shifting here is portable testing. With new technologies that are coming about, we now have the ability to do these tests at home. And this is good application when we're talking about international markets, which we can manage here. I've spoken to different physicians in Dubai, in India, Mexico, China, and the Philippines, and we already have the infrastructure. When I say that is the management, whether it's customer service, in contact with the patient itself, the technology that needs to be done, and then manage it from here through the internet itself. But because of this paradigm shift, and we have about 35 to 4,000 sleep centers in the U.S. today, this will actually, if we market this properly, we can increase our market presence very fast. And obviously that will affect the overhead of these sleep centers out there, which creates another opportunity in regards to acquisitions. And that will be the next slide, please. Because of what I just explained and the fact that there is a lot of decay going on with patients who are not staying compliant because of the way that the industry is set up at this point, then that's going to obviously affect the revenues of these sleep centers, which have a static overhead. With portable testing coming about in the last 2 years and being really reinforced by the sleep industry in some parts of it, but also the commercial insurance presence, that's going to bring about a lot of consolidation. And it brings an opportunity for us to be able to acquire a lot of these sleep centers. And in fact, I have 15 centers right now on my desk that are asking us to come in, evaluate them, and just acquire them. I've been able to acquire sleep centers for...
Acquire a sleep center?
I'm sorry?
What does it cost for you to acquire a sleep center?
It's a negotiation based. I've been able to acquire them for as low as $12,000. So it just depends on whether you understand well, number one, the location of the lab itself and the demand of the of the population that surrounds that lab, whether it's in an urban environment or if it's in a rural environment. So everything is just on a one-on-one basis, and also depends on obviously how motivated that individual, the owner, will be to get out of it. Now, why would we want to?
How much revenue does each sleep center generate on average? So if you, let's say you invest $12,000 to acquire a sleep center, how much revenue is it going to generate per year?
Well, with the present model and the way it stands is, and once again, this is only applicable to the U.S., but you're looking at an independent study reimbursing about $600 on the average. So we don't do that. What we do is we form JVs with hospitals. A hospital is able to get reimbursed $1,600 for the same exact study versus an independent lab, which is at $600. So it doesn't make sense to do independent labs. We've never ever done independent labs. What we've done is we just simply went out and did a lot of JVs with different hospitals and put them under the hospital so we get the higher reimbursement. So it's number one, and number two is the hospital.
Let me come back to my question. Why doing whatever you're doing, whatever optimization you're doing, what is the revenue potential of a sleep center, annual revenue potential of a sleep center?
It's going to depend on the number of referrals you're able to generate. But by us doing it this way, we essentially collect $1,000 per study for the same exact study. In addition, because we do the JV with the hospital.
I mean, you don't acquire something without making some assessment of the revenue potential of that business. If you're going to put in $12,000 in acquiring a sleep center, what are you planning to make? $50,000, $100,000 a year? What are you trying to make?
$800,000 a year.
Sorry? I can't hear you.
$800,000 a year.
$800,000 a year, okay?
Okay.
Per center, $800,000 per center.
Center, yes. The way we do that is through, number one, putting a JV, designing the JV with the hospital, which lowers our overhead. Now, the hospital itself has space for us to put the lab into. We don't have a lease that go out and set up a static expense. So it lowers our overhead by about 35%. In addition, it creates an additional $1,000 per study that we are able to collect in comparison to our competition out there who's trying to do it independently. When we do evaluation of this and do the acquisition, the consolidation of the market is going to happen no matter what. These people are just simply going to go out of business. So what we're doing is we're acquiring these for pennies on the dollar, and the reason we're doing it is now brings to the web marketing and direct consumer. A lot of, actually 100% of these patients have comorbidity involved, whether it's, I stated some of them initially, diabetes, hypertension, and obesity. Well, we partner with web-based marketing corporations that at this point sell anywhere between $1 million a month in supplements. So the idea came about, why not directly contact patients?
I can't hear you very well. I don't know what you changed in your setup. You're not very audible at the moment.
Can you hear me a little better now?
Yeah, that's a little better. It was very clear. For the first part of your presentation, it was very clear.
Okay. Is that any better, or?
Yeah, it's a bit better.
I'll talk a little louder.
Tell me, what is it that brings you here? What are you trying to address? I know you have lots of slides and lots of text on these slides. We don't really have time to go through all this. So you have to give me a quick summary of what is it that brings you here today. What can we help you with?
Okay. I'm looking for a partner that is invest $1 million to $5 million to generate a company. We presently have center.
Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Still breaking? Hello?
And what did you do? You were perfectly audible for a long time, and now you're not audible at all.
Didn't do anything. Weird.
How big is your company today, revenue-wise? How much do you make today?
It's right now the net revenue is about $900,000. We're going to hit $1 million this year. And the inception of portable testing that we're bringing about also will help us grow other areas of the country. But it also opens up the possibility about international.
So this is a pretty substantial strategy discussion that needs to be had here. With the $900,000 of revenue, where is that revenue coming from? Is it mostly from your sleep centers, or is it from the supplements that you're selling online? Where is that? What is the source of that revenue?
It's all, I would say, an additional 30% company, but the web marketing piece of it, we're actually just putting together. Started that about 3 months ago, and the idea was to get revenue back because the front end of the industry is changing so dramatically. So when we have the
I can't hear you. Look, I can't. I'm going to give you a few pieces of feedback. We can't have this conversation if I can't hear you. Yeah, something is wrong on your audio, and I just cannot hear you. So here's a few pieces of guidance here. Our expertise lies in IT and IT-enabled services businesses. That includes healthcare IT, which could be something that applies to you, and it also includes e-commerce, especially niche e-commerce. We are very big believers in. So if this business is going in one of two directions, one is it's some kind of its future is in a niche e-commerce business, that is something that falls within our realm of expertise, and that's something we can conceivably help you with. If it's going to be a bunch of sleep centers, sleep clinics, that is outside of our realm of expertise. That's not what we specialize in.
Okay, I understand. The well, it could potentially be a lot of e-commerce, which is in the direction that we're going. It's designed though to be addressed or be directed to the patients that we bring in through the front end, which is through the sleep testing of these patients themselves.
That's fine, but you're going to have to provide a pretty clear pilot and economics of what that means. So what is the cost and revenue of a sleep center based on pure services revenue and reimbursements that you get from insurance companies and hospitals and so forth, and how much e-commerce business do you make with that audience? If the primary business is the sleep center and e-commerce is 5% of your business, then that cannot be called an e-commerce company. However, if the primary business is e-commerce and the sleep centers just are a way of, kind of servicing, and hybrid e-commerce, by the way, is a very interesting way of doing business, and it's something that I'm personally very bullish on. So there is something here that I find quite compelling, and I'm very familiar with the sleep apnea being a serious problem in the United States. It's something that I've looked into and I know quite a bit about. So I'm completely comfortable with your analysis of the fact that this is a serious issue, and it has, I think the medical analysis that you presented of this being a big problem around the world, that is an accurate analysis, and that is fine. But I think how you structure your business and your business strategy of where you take this business has to be crafted, much more granularly. Right now, it's kind of all over the place.
Okay.
Okay? So before you can raise any money, all these questions that I'm asking you need to be answered, and you're going to have to create a specific strategic map, roadmap, product-wise, service-wise, business-wise, that, ultimately investors fund a certain business roadmap, a certain business plan. And unless you can show a precise business plan of how exactly are you going to build this business to a very large business, investors only fund very large business opportunities. So if you're asking for $5 million, how are you going to build a $500 million, billion-dollar business? That is something that you need to scope out very clearly. And without that granular scoping, you cannot raise money. The other piece of feedback I have is you have way too much text on your slides. This is not the way to use slides. You need to use very minimal amount of text on slides so that your key points stand out. The rest you have to tackle by speaking to those key points. You cannot put this much text inside. It makes it completely counterproductive.
Okay.
Okay?
Appreciate that.
All right.
What I'll do is I'll revise it, and maybe I can come back and email it to you and have you give me some information on that.
No, that's not how we work. If you hang on, you will see I will discuss how 1M works. And why don't you hang on and listen to that segment, and then you can ask questions about, how to work with us in that when we are on that segment. But I need to do one more entrepreneur presentation first before we move to that segment. So,
okay, appreciate that. Okay.
Manish, you're up next.
Yep. Okay.
Go ahead.
Hi, Sramana, and everyone else who is a part of this event. Well, this is Manish from Ujjivan Healthcare, and we have taken up a project of taking primary and chronic healthcare to the people of India who are basically based in small townships and rural setups. So, but before we move ahead, I would just like to give you a brief background as to why I started thinking about this project. While I was in college studying my bachelor in pharmaceutical technology, we came across this importance of how a pharmacist can help a patient to understand the importance of medicines which are prescribed by a physician. And when we try to understand how it is actually delivered to the patient, we found that unfortunately the retail pharmacies where a pharmacist should be delivering all the information to the patient, it is lacking all across the country. So after completing the graduation in pharmacy, I started a pilot project on telepharmacy, and this was the first ever done telepharmacy project in India, wherein we started talking to people and telling them the importance of what is covered under the area of patient counseling. And I would just like to give an example as to what is the importance of patient counseling. If a person is suffering from acidity and would like to take an antacid syrup, and if he is not counseled properly as to what should be the dose of the syrup, and if that person ends up taking extra dose of the syrup, then he would end up getting increasing the acidity levels in the body instead of getting relief from it. So while we were talking to people regarding this telepharmacy, we came across a larger vacuum which exists in the healthcare segment for small townships and rural areas. And in the next slide, I'll be highlighting these issues. One is the accessibility. When we talk about accessibility, we saw that the specialty consultants, they are basically situated in big cities or metros. And in order to access them, a person has to travel to that particular city or town, which makes it very difficult for a person until unless it is very urgent. And at the same time, when we look at elderly people, then we see that elderly people have mobility issues, because of which even if a physician is there in the town, then they find it very difficult to attend or go to the physician's clinic. So and at the same time, doctors coming to house of patient is something which is not present in India. Then again, as I said, that this specialty medical opinion is restricted only to metros. So in order to access the specialty consultation, a person will have to travel to from a small township to a bigger city or a metro town. And at the same time, when we see about the financial burden of a disease, then we closely found that even for small medical advice, people generally become very reluctant to enter a doctor's clinic and pay, say, 150 to 200 rupees just for small medical advices. And this neglect ultimately results in self-medication, which has to be avoided in all instances. And this self-medication ultimately in long run leads to major chronic diseases, which has a larger financial burden on that particular patient. And due to the lack of specialty consultation, it is generally seen that a patient has to go for repeat checkups through the physicians available in his or her township. I would like to give a small example, my personal example. In fact, about a year back, I had this severe stomach pain, and I visited a physician in our town and did not get the relief from that particular checkup. I visited another physician after 20 days. Still did not get the relief. So ultimately, I had to travel to the nearest metro, Calcutta, to get my checkup done. And with that single treatment, the relief was there. And the point that I'm trying to make is, if we can get a specialty consultation in the first point, then it is not only cost effective, but it is also a big relief for a person. And at the same time, we do find that whenever we go to a particular doctor and we are prescribed a line of treatment, the patient adhering to the line of treatment is, that patient adherence is very weak, because there is no one who keeps a check on the patient whether he or she is following the prescribed line of treatment. It generally happens when a course has to be followed for, say, an antibiotic which has been prescribed. And after taking say a couple of doses, the patient feels that he or she is feeling well. They do not take the complete course. So the patient adherence is really very poor. And the most important problem is the time which is actually consumed in getting a treatment is also a problem, because it makes people reluctant in going to a doctor's clinic, because the amount of waiting time which has to be given, the amount of time which has to be given in the travel is really very high. And in India, we still have the trend of doctors giving the appointment to the patient, and to this particular situation, we were thinking if it could have been really very good if the patient could have given the appointment to the doctor depending on his or her availability. So depending on these problems, we came across the solutions which could be provided, which we would discuss in the next slide. Yeah, thank you. over here we thought and in fact came up with this idea wherein Ujjivan would take primary and chronic healthcare solutions to the people by connecting patient, doctor, and pharmacist through a network of walk-in health centers as well as virtual health centers to ensure better results, and it would also help in decreasing the long-term economical burden of the disease. And in order to do so, the technologies which has been incorporated are the telemedicine, telepharmacy, and chronic disease management. And at the same time, I would also like to make a point over here is whenever we talk about healthcare in India, the importance of pharmacists has always been neglected. The role which the pharmacist plays after the diagnosis is done in connecting the patient and the proper line of treatment, it is not recognized, and which is why we want to stress a lot on the role of pharmacists as well. Next slide, please. So we would really like to redefine the healthcare situation in India with the incorporation of information technologies and the technologies which we discussed in the previous slide by setting up at least 30 walk-in health centers in India in the coming 3 years, and to provide the most cost-effective primary healthcare service, so that like as we say that even kids could be able to pay for it. And as of now, in Ujjivan, the services could be availed as low as 25 rupees per month. Next slide, please. So when we were identifying how to reach out to people, the various segments we found was the self-employed people who really find it difficult to take out time from their work and travel to a different town or give time in the doctor's chamber, but they have to do it because they whenever they do not find any other option of or in emergency health situations. Then the employees who work in such self-employed employed people setups, for such employees it is also very difficult to access proper health care, because one, the salaries are really very small, and again the loss of income which might come up if they need to take a leave from their work and go to a different town. And the problem becomes really very grave when it comes to daily wage earners and the laborers, because for them again.
Do you have a center? I've got it. I've got what you're trying to do. Do you have a center piloted? Manish? What happened? All right, well, Maureen, I don't know what's going on in terms of the audio. I think his call has dropped. So I'll let you figure out how to get him back, and I'm going to, meanwhile, answer some questions from the audience. I saw a few questions while we were talking to the entrepreneur. I was talking to the entrepreneurs. One question Dhawal Brahmvat asked of Ajit's business: why wouldn't you recommend going to Europe given the fact that he has a monopoly situation? There's a monopoly market opportunity. There's no product. His product is not ready. So there's an investment in getting a product going for a market which has a different language and different culture. To make that investment, and then there's going to be investment in actually marketing the product. So that those things, given the resources that Ajit has available to him, are not viable without a partner who comes from that geography. That's my point. He already has an English language version. He's already selling an English language version. He's got an English language version out in the market, and that's the product that actually he's getting good feedback on, and that's what he's made his name on. Okay. Yes, Maureen, I got it, that she's trying to reconnect. By the way, since we are waiting for Manish to reconnect, please feel free to use the public chat to ask questions meanwhile, okay? We can do some Q&A now, and then I'll do the 1M1M segment after we're done with Manish, if he succeeds in dialing back. In any case, I think, my feedback on Manish's business, Manish, you can pick up this feedback from the recording, is that you're going to have to pilot what you're trying to do. You're not scaling up. You don't yet have a pilot, from what I can gather. Our 2 pilot centers started, so you've got Raniganj and Benachati, wherever that is, with people coming for specialty consultations. And we need to figure out we need the numbers of what does it cost to set up and run a center, and at what point does that become viable and profitable and so forth. So until you create a sufficiently profitable business model for one center, no one's going to give you money to set up more centers. That's the basic limitation that you're going to have to deal with. So you should basically put all your attention onto one center, really build that center up, and then take it from there. So the mechanics and the numbers, the granular numbers of that center, the pilot center, is really important. Priyankar is saying Benachiti is in Durgapur. Okay, Durgapur, Raniganj are 2 cities, 2 towns actually, in 2 industrial towns in West Bengal, and I think they're reasonably good, good sized populations, and if you can make those 2 centers work in a meaningful way, which makes all the numbers add up, I think that would be fine. But you do need to make those numbers become compelling as a pilot before you can go out to raise money. So since I don't have you on the audio, I'm not able to get any information on what those numbers are. But that is basically your first order of business, is to create compelling numbers on your pilots, both from a customer acquisition point of view, how much they're paying, how much is the center generating profits-wise per year, and against what level of investment. Is it all profitable? Is there ROI built into this equation? That's the story that you're going to have to tell for investors to be invested in your business. Okay, so anyway, I think Manish, you can pick up the feedback from the recording, as I said. I'm going to move on to the next segment, which is talking about 1M1M and how you can use the program to get help for your businesses. Before I do that, if you found the kinds of discussions we had today compelling and valuable, you should try to let other entrepreneurs who may find this resource valuable and helpful, make sure you tell them about this resource, because one of the key things that we need to get our arms around is finding more serious entrepreneurs who have the resilience to build businesses within the 1M1M framework. And entrepreneurship is a very tough, very, very challenging exercise, and you need a lot of nerve, you need a lot of persistence, you need a lot of resilience to stay with it. And we are always looking for serious entrepreneurs to come into the program whom we can invest our resources on and help them become successful leveraging those resources. So 1M by 1M is the website. That's where you start your exploration. You will find the blog at sramanamitra.com, and that is a free resource. There's an immense amount of information, case studies, trend information, and stuff that you can learn from free of charge on that blog. And we also have the Entrepreneur Journeys book series, where we start synthesizing some of the methodology that we teach in 1M1M, and two cornerstone philosophies of the 1M1M program are bootstrapping and positioning. You cannot build a successful business without mastering those two aspects, bootstrapping and positioning. And all these Entrepreneur Journeys books, by the way, are available from Amazon and Kindle internationally. And in India, they're available from Flipkart. Probably soon from Amazon India as well. As I said, the blog is at sramanamitra.com. We also have these free roundtables, as I said, almost every Thursday, 8 a.m. Pacific time, except when I'm traveling. And I do have an India trip coming up later in half of October and early November. And we're going to have some live events in India during that trip. So we've done, this is our 143rd roundtable. Over 10,000 people have attended. We've coached hundreds of entrepreneurs, and it's been around since the fall of 2008. In addition, we have the premium program, which is a $1,000 annual membership fee, in which we teach extensive methodology of entrepreneurship. So we have a comprehensive curriculum. You would probably be spending about 50 hours in the core curriculum and another 50 hours in the electives. And that would give you a much, much stronger mastery over what you need to do with your businesses. We also help you with business development, customer channel partner introductions. We have private members-only versions of these kinds of video conference-based roundtables and mentoring sessions. That's part of the premium program. And we also help with financing. If your project is fundable, and there's a lot of work that goes into getting to a point when your business is fundable, then you have to take that and go and raise money. And by the way, a small percentage of businesses that go out to seek financing actually succeed for various reasons. Many businesses are just not fundable. They're small niche businesses, and they don't necessarily fit the venture capital model. So you have to do the analysis and make sure that your business does fit the venture capital model. And if it does, then you can go raise money, and we will help you with raising money. But even if it doesn't, we will still help you build the business, and you can build a very nice, profitable, lucrative business without outside financing as well. And we are big believers in that style of entrepreneurship as well, not just the venture-funded style. So one place you could start is the 1M1M self-assessment. In fact, if you join the program, that's where we're going to point you to, and we're going to ask you to go, assess your business based on a 7-point questionnaire. And if you're in the premium program, you will have curriculum modules attached to those questions to bridge the gaps in your understanding of those topics and those issues. As I said, the website is 1m1m.com. On the top right corner, you have premium member, what to expect from the premium program as a full page. You will also have FAQs and video messages which answer a lot of the questions that come up when people are trying to access and understand the program. Our methodology is lean, capital efficient, bootstrap startup. So be aware of that. And if your idea is that you're going to raise money on a PowerPoint presentation, that is not what we do, and that is not what we encourage. And part of the reason that we do not encourage that is because it's not viable. That's not how investors work. In the curriculum, you will have core methodology guidance on 7 specific topics. Those are bootstrapping, positioning, market sizing, customer validation, financing, customer acquisition, and team building. Our elective modules are Web 3.0 and e-commerce, cloud computing and business solutions, outsourcing and consulting, mobile and social apps, healthcare IT, online education, and gaming. And those are the areas where we have the bulk of our activity. Our curriculum is delivered in the form of case studies of several hundred successful entrepreneurs and video lectures. So what we've done since 2006 is developed case studies of these successful entrepreneurs, and we have over 600 of those today. In addition, we've also done these online roundtables, 143 free roundtables, and numerous roundtables in the premium program, which gives us deep understanding of what kinds of issues entrepreneurs are dealing with. So if you're dealing with a certain issue, chances are we have seen that problem before, and we have case studies and video lectures addressing the questions that you have on your specific issues. So the combination of this curriculum, the video lectures and case studies based curriculum, and online roundtables where you can get interactive feedback is how we deliver this program in a scalable way and at a very, very low price point of $1,000 annual membership fee. For those of you who are attending from various incubators and entrepreneurship development organizations around the world, we do have an affiliate program where we pay 10% commission on business that you generate, and you're welcome to reach out to us to explore how to partner with us on the affiliate model. Maureen, I think you have a typo here. October 11th is our 144th roundtable. October 18th is our 145th roundtable. And then I'm in India. There are going to be a couple of roundtables in India. November 1st actually is our 146th roundtable, and that is going to be an in-person roundtable in Calcutta. We are probably also going to have a roundtable during TaiCon in Kerala, which is still in kind of in flux. They don't have their act together quite yet, but once we do know about it, we will be announcing that as well. But the bottom line is pretty much every Thursday we have roundtables. So you will be able to, one way or the other, reach us during Thursday roundtables most of the time. So November 1st is actually, yes, you're right, November 1st is probably the 146th roundtable, and that's going to be in Calcutta, in person and online. So you would be able to connect to that roundtable online as well. And for those of you who are planning to apply, that is going to be a pitch fest. There are 6 scholarships that are going to be awarded at that roundtable, and application deadline is October 20th. So if you are in that geography, in the Kolkata, or Bengal, West Bengal geography, Durgapur and so forth, where there are entrepreneurs working, Kharagpur, IIT Kharagpur, of course, the home of the Indian Institute of Technology. If you're an entrepreneur in that rough geography, please come and please apply for apply for the scholarship program, and we will be picking 10 finalists. And this is part of Bengal's entrepreneurship development efforts. So you will see more happening in Bengal as we go along, and we're going to follow this up hopefully with a lot more activity in that area. But there's definitely a concerted effort coming together, starting with this November 1st event in Kolkata around Bengal's entrepreneurship development. Another book that I would like to point you to, and in fact, Manish, since we were talking about e-health and so forth, you should take a look at Vision India 2020. This is a book that has $45 billion business ideas, and these are my ideas, but you're welcome to take one of them and implement them. There's a whole section on healthcare, and it actually has a whole chapter on this kind of pharmacy, small town pharmacy kind of model. So you should definitely take a look at that. The book is written as business fiction set in 2020, and it's effectively a futuristic retrospective. So we're sitting in 2020 looking back on how these companies were built. So there's a lot of strategy discussion in each idea. And as I said, you're very welcome to take those ideas and morph those ideas, and whatever you want to do with them, we'll help you build these ideas. We have a whole module in 1M1M dedicated to Vision India 2020 as well. All right, so that's pretty much all that I have to say in terms of the presentation. If any of you have any questions, now is open Q&A time. So go ahead and use your public chat to ask your questions. Anybody, any questions? Make sure you send your, you set your public chat to send to all participants if you're using the Q&A window. Anybody? No? So Manish, you are back in the room but not on the call. So I have given you feedback. You should listen to the roundtable recording, which will be available after the session on the blog. And there is feedback for you. I'm not going to repeat the feedback because the rest of the room has already listened to the feedback, but you will have access to the feedback on the recording. Anybody else? There you go. Maureen says she's going to send you a link to the recording, all of you. All right. Well, I don't see any further questions, in which case we're going to wrap up, and I'll see you guys next week. If there are premium members in the room, we'll see you on Wednesday for the private roundtable, and on Thursday for the public roundtable, everybody who's coming. See you, and good luck with the rest of the weekend and all your businesses. Bye-bye, everybody.